Hey, what's up guys? So in today's video we're gonna be covering how to tie a fishing knot and also how to fish for different fish using different rigs, and also some other tips and tricks. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, so stay tuned. Okay, so first of all, there's a bit of different tackle or fishing supplies. Tackle just means different fishing supplies. So first off, we have hooks, and then we have weights. There's also bobbers. There's also line. As you can see, it comes in these spools. There's also bobbers. I'm gonna throw up a photo right now of how bobbers look. You guys have definitely seen them before. I just don't have one on me right now. Yeah, that's pretty much the basics. So before we begin, I just wanted to tell you guys that I have this 2-tray box right here for fishing. And so basically what it is, it's like a tackle box where you hold all your fishing supplies. And it actually opens up like this. So you can see it has a bunch of storage space. I got this off of Amazon for pretty cheap. So if you guys are interested in fishing a lot, then I'd recommend getting one of these. These things are really good. Okay, so we're gonna go over how to tie the fisherman's knot, which is one of the easier knots for fishing. And it's really good for beginners, and it's also really strong. So basically what I have here is my fishing line, and then I have a little hook. So if we want to tie this hook onto the line and make it strong and tight, what we have to do first is send this little fishing line through the eye of the hook, or the circle of the hook. And once it goes through, then now that we have this little like end piece, we want to send the end piece back like over here. And now we kind of have a triangle. And then now that we have the triangle, we want to twist the hook either clockwise or counterclockwise. So I'm going to do mine clockwise. And as you can see here, there's a bunch of little twists forming on the line now. I hope the camera's picking it up. And the twisting and turns, you can see there's a little hole. I'll put an arrow right next to the hole. And you basically want to send this like line into that little hole like this. A second. Okay, it's hard to tell, but it's through that hole now. And then we pull it through, but not fully. And now you can see we have a little circle right here. Now what we want to do is from the top, we grab the end of our line, this end of our line right here, and then we send it through that big circle like this. You send it through the circle. And then once you have it through the circle, then you just pull on the main line and the end of the line. And then once it's like, it looks kind of like this, then you only have to pull on the hook and the main line. And then sometimes it gets stuck. On monofilament, it doesn't usually get stuck, or the clear line, it doesn't get stuck. So sometimes you'll have to pinch and pull. And now you have a fisherman's knot. So what we can do now is cut off the tag end. And there we have it. There's a little bit of fuzz at the end, but I don't think that's going to be a huge issue. So that's how to tie the fisherman's knot. And now let's go onto the different rigs for fishing for different kinds of fish. Type of fishing setup is meant for bluegill, or like really small fish like minnows or bluegill. If you're in a creek or you need to find bait fish, this is pretty good. So this one is 4-pound clear line or monofilament line, and it's attached to a size 8 eagle claw hook. These are the eagle claw hooks. It's size 8 It's pretty cheap. I just got it from Walmart, and they're pretty dang small. Here, let me show you. This is the hook, and this is my... One second, that's hard to do. So this is the hook, and this is my nail. So that's it in size comparison. It's very tiny. I wouldn't add any weights to this. Like typically, sometimes you would add a weight to the hook or like up along the line, like over here. I wouldn't add that because bluegill can really see the weights, and maybe you might want to add like a split shot. And the split shot is basically like this Pac-Man looking thing, and it's basically a weight that you put onto the line, and you use pliers. Sometimes you can just use your fingers if you're strong enough. And it looks like this. Okay, so the next setup is for bass. And so right here in my hand, I have a little thicker monofilament line. It's the Zebco 20-pound line. And the reason why I didn't use a 4-pound line is because bass, if you end up hooking onto a large bass, then the 4-pound line won't be strong enough, and it'll probably rip off. So here we have a worm hook. It's a different type of hook. You can also find it at Walmart. And so basically what it's supposed to do is you're supposed to get like a soft plastic or like a fake worm, and they sell those at Walmart. Fake worm or a fake lizard, and you basically slide the head of the worm through and up, and so it stays attached to this hook. Another thing you would also want to add is worm weights. And so these things are called worm weights. They look like little cones. And so basically before you tie on your fishing hook, you slide this onto your line and make sure that your fishing hook attaches here, and the wide end of the weight attaches here. And then you tie on your hook. So after you tie on your hook, then this weight ends up sliding down due to gravity. And so what this weight does is the fish see the shininess of the weight, and sometimes they get attracted to it. They'll also see the bait, like the worm that you have attached. So that's also another plus for attracting fish. And also the addition of a weight allows you to cast farther compared to like if you had no weight. So typically bluegill and other like small minnows, they're near the bank of the river or bank of the whatever body of water you're fishing in. So you don't need to cast very far to catch them. You just need to have like a worm. But for these bass, they live in somewhat deep / medium deep water. And so you do need to cast out far so that you can reach, so your rod and your bait can reach those areas. So with the addition of a weight, you can cast pretty dang far. So yeah, this is the bass setup. Okay, so here we have the last type of fishing rig or setup, and this is specifically for catfish. So basically what we have here is first off the line that goes to your fishing rod, and then you have in chronology a weight, and then there's something called a swivel, which is this little guy right here. Hopefully he's showing up. I'll put a picture up on the screen. And so basically what these things are is they prevent the line from tangling. So catfish, they're fish that like to like flop around and fight decently hard. So these things prevent your line from tangling. And also they also serve a purpose of separating the weight from the fish, because sometimes people use 1/2 ounce to 1 ounce to all the way up to like 2 or 3 ounces. So that's like way bigger than this. So they don't want the big weight to deter the catfish. And then after the swivel, which is right here, you give around 18 inches or so. I know I added way more. This is like probably like 2 feet. I did that on accident. So 18 inches of line between the swivel and the hook, and then finally you have something called a circle hook. And as you can see, it's connected like it looks a little bit like a circle. These are specifically meant for bottom feeders, so things that want to just pick up stuff from the bottom of the seafloor and eat them, like catfish or carp or some other stuff like that. So these things, how they work is that as you start reeling in your rod, on the way out of the fish's mouth, these things get hooked onto the lip of the fish, and then you don't even have to hook set or anything. And so that's why these things are really, really good. So one thing I would recommend is not to use these things, use big circle hooks, because unless you're fishing for monsters, these things won't catch anything. Like most catfish aren't even that big to ingest. Like a circle hook that looks like this, which is way bigger. So I'd recommend using 4/0 circle hooks or 4/0 size circle hooks. I just caught a catfish last weekend on these 4/0 circle hooks, so I really recommend them. I'll put a picture up right now. And so yeah, these things work phenomenally. Yeah, one thing I'd recommend is to use a bigger weight, because a 1/4 ounce is probably not going to allow you to cast that far. Maybe a 1 ounce would let you cast really far. And the further you cast into the middle of the river or whatever body of water you're in, typically the deeper the water. So that's where the catfish like to be during the day. Oh yeah, the bait selection. Bait selection is really important too. For the small little bluegills, what I do is go into my backyard and just get like a little container and get a bunch of worms and use them to fish bluegill. You'd hook a worm on just to here, a little piece, like half of a worm, and then bluegill will come and bite it and eat it. For bass, for these types, I'd recommend a plastic worm or soft plastic worm, because they tend to like bigger bait rather than small worms and stuff. And then finally, for catfish, what I caught my catfish on last week was a piece of chicken. I know a lot of people have success with chicken liver and some other like nasty smelling stuff, because catfish use their scent a lot to find food. So anything that's really smelly would probably work. So yeah. Another tip is that some people, for these bass setups, they use swivels, like how I just showed you with the catfish hooks. They use swivels up here to prevent like the bass from tangling their line too. You can do that, but I don't really have an issue with that. I haven't fished bass too much to have that much experience with bass like tangling my line. I wouldn't worry about that too much. Another thing is that if you're fishing on a pier or a dock or something, and you're fishing for big fish, I wouldn't recommend fishing too close to the dock. Like sending your bait right next to the docks, like beams and stuff. Because what happened to me was I was fishing at a pier, and then I had a big fish on, but the problem was that it tangled the fish, caused my line to tangle around the pillars of the pier, and I had to cut off my line because it was just stuck. So yeah, but for small fish, it's really good to fish near piers and stuff, because those things don't really put up that big of a fight, and they're pretty easy to pull in. So another thing I'd recommend is not to use line or weights that are too big or too small for a fish. For example, like if you're fishing for bluegill with 20-pound line, meaning that it's like pretty thick and visible, then the bluegill will see it and they'll just run away and not eat it, not bite your bait. Same thing goes with big weights. Like they'll see the weights and they'll run away. The reason why the big weights work on the catfish hooks, on the catfish setups, is because there's a large distance between the weight and the bait. So let's say my weight's all the way like over here and my bait is all the way over here. The catfish may not see this weight, so that's why it works. Also, you need it to cast pretty dang far. But yeah, that wraps up today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed and learned something new. If you guys have any questions or comments, leave them down below. And also be sure to hit like and subscribe so that we can keep this channel growing. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.